Jamie Nickel, 46.
Michaela Spurrier, 16.
Grant Burdett, 17.
Chloe Scales, 18.
Cole Farlow, 18.
Sam Gibbons, 17.
Since its release in 1935, Monopoly has long been a classic board game. Many view it as a great opportunity to just have some fun with family and friends. However, if you're like me, Monopoly is more than just a board game. It's an opportunity to crush, defeat, and conquer your loved ones in a simulated real estate market. But how do you become good at Monopoly? How do you apply strategy to a game that is luck-based? Well, if you know how to manipulate the game mechanics and have knowledge of how it should be played, you should be well on your way to mastering it. If you start aggressively, focus on developing the red and orange properties, be willing to go to jail, avoid buying hotels, and understand dice statistics, Monopoly should become a piece of cake. The mistake people make right off the bat in Monopoly is playing cautiously in the beginning. At this point in the game, you're trying to get together as much property as possible in the fastest way possible so you can get it before your opponents get it. If you have lots of property, you're going to be able to get natural monopolies, which are monopolies obtained without trading or having to fork over ridiculous amounts of money. According to an article posted to Hallborn Assets, an international financial services agency, right off the bat in Monopoly, a slow and steady approach will cost you the game. Furthermore, if you have a lot of properties, you're going to be able to trade a lot. And according to Monopoly Champion, if you snatch up a lot of properties in the beginning, you're going to have a lot of leverage later on. That leverage is what's going to allow you to win when you're able to perform trades that would overall benefit the supply of your money. But it's not only about having a lot of property. It's about knowing what type of properties to own. And in this case, you're going to want to own the red and orange properties because they will give you the most bang for your buck. These properties will return the most profit margin because they're the most frequently landed on in the game. In fact, the most landed on are Illinois Avenue, New York Avenue, and Tennessee Avenue. And that's according to Flynn Zeiger of the Tulane University Board Games Club. And because of this, these properties are just going to the rent is just going to rack up and you're going to be gaining a lot more money than your opponents. And in addition to this, they're a lot cheaper than the properties on this side of the board, so you won't miss out on as much money as you would have if you had gone to this side. And while monopolies are getting on the board, you're getting into a later stage of the game, you might want to consider what many deem a bad situation in Monopoly, going to jail. Going to jail in the later stages of Monopoly can be advantageous to your supply of money. Now, don't get me wrong. In the beginning of the game, you do not want to go to jail. As I discussed previously, you're going to want to snatch up as much property as possible, and going to jail will just delay that for you. But later in the game, you might want to consider going to jail because while you're in there, your opponents are going to be landing on your squares while you can't land on theirs. And that's going to deliver passive income to you while your opponents are losing money. And at a point in the game where everybody is afraid of going bankrupt, that could not be more valuable. But while you're in that jail cell, mulling over the life decisions that led you to be in prison with a dog and a cat, you might also want to consider the housing market situation. The number of houses and hotels in the game can greatly determine who's going to win. If you avoid buying hotels, you're effectively hoarding all the houses for yourself. And according to Insider Magazine, once all 32 houses have been used, the bag is depleted. This means that if you load all your properties up with 4 houses, you're going to be holding that from your opponent. Your opponents aren't going to be able to upgrade. And that means that you're going to be losing less money with unlucky rolls. While you'll be earning less money from not using hotels, you'll be losing less money because your opponents won't be able to upgrade. This means that you'll overall have more money. And lastly, you should understand dice statistics. All of the tips I discussed previously prove ineffective when you don't understand the most fundamental part of the game. Using the dice is extremely important because you can use statistical averages to determine the best course of action. According to Hallborn Assets, 7 is the most commonly rolled number when using a set of dice. This means you might be inclined to make intelligent decisions such as developing properties 7 spaces away from where your opponents are. By listening to the speech, you have now gained insight into some of the core principles of playing good games of Monopoly. If you start offensively, utilize the red and orange properties, understand that going to jail can be a good thing, sometimes avoid buying hotels, and understand how to use these dice, you should be well on your way to crushing everyone at Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, and any other places where the wonderful game of Monopoly may be played. Thank you.
Jamie Nickel,
Michaela Spurrier.
Grant Burdett.
Chloe Scales.
Cole Farlow.
Sam Gibbons.